Today we're going to talk about stuff, oh my gosh, I don't even know if we're going to be able to keep it on social media. It's awful hot topics I'm going to be covering because I was doing a broadcast for Real America's Voice where I'm not edited or suppressed. But I'm dealing with just the news, the way the stories, the way they are. And they're just powerfully, and it talks about the cultural divide and how the LGBTQ community is experiencing some real pushback because of the aggressiveness with which they're in your face with the American people, and the American people are pushing back finally. And, I took a break here to renew my strength. Isaiah 40. When do you have a company that puts Isaiah 40, verse 31 on a product? This is called Pure Chocolate Energy. These are individually wrapped dark chocolate chews. And what's fascinating about this is this energy is an antioxidant-rich blend that works effectively. It's like chocolate energy. It is exactly what it is. But it's kosher, happily kosher, gluten-free, non-GMO, dairy-free, soy-free, vegan-friendly, made in the USA. I'm not going to be able to offer these all the time because, frankly, it doesn't really pay the bills, but I just share what I do with my staff. My son introduced this to me. Pure Chocolate Energy. All you got to do is go to lancewallnau.com/energy, and you can see how it is that I can always be, well, effervescent and vibrant and lively. And the secret, Pure Chocolate Energy. You'll love these. And let's get into today's wild program. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show from coast to coast. I'm your host, bringing you the most in the news that you don't normally hear. We cover a lot of great stuff on Real America's Voice. I go there actually all the time to get my updates on what's going on in the world. And then I find maybe some stories that you haven't heard that are equally prescient in revealing prophetically what's happening in the earth. You know, it's an interesting Bible verse. It says that realize this, that in the last days, difficult times will come because men will be lovers of themselves. And if that was, it's the narcissistic generation is what the Apostle Paul is predicting. There's going to be so much love for money and arrogance and ingratitude and irreconcilable maliciousness. People that absolutely lose control of their own impulsiveness. They're going to be haters of good people. They're going to love pleasure more than they even love God. And they'll have some form of godliness. It'll look like piety. It'll be a false religion. But they will have no power to transform their appetites or their drives. They'll just become slaves to their own fallen nature. This is what Paul wrote 2,000 years ago. How do these guys know? This is right there in the Bible. But then what's interesting is he goes on to give a word to the people that have Bibles, that are preachers, that are called in the last days. And he says, preach the truth. Preach the word, whether it's convenient or inconvenient. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with great patience, and teach and clarify for people what the truth is. Because the time will come when people will have no tolerance for sound thinking. They're going to accumulate for themselves the voices that feed their own desires. They're going to turn their ears away from the truth and turn rather to the myths that empower their own prejudices. Wow, what a powerful statement. That's right there from 2 Timothy chapter 3. If you're a Bible geek, you can check it out. And chapter 4. So where are we right now? Well, you could see where Paul is absolutely right, that we're referring to a deterioration, particularly in the West. You're seeing this. The places where you've had the greatest freedom are the places where you can have the greatest range of avarice and indulgence. And that's what makes The Sound of Freedom so interesting as a movie, as it's breaking through the $120 million barrier and going on, because it talks about the number one client for child sex perversion is the United States, according to the research they've got. And the number one provider is Mexico through the cartels, bringing in all the traffic into the United States. So along with the cheap labor that these big corporations are getting, which strikes me as being something we ought to be able to shut down. I mean, there ought to be a way that the IRS, if they're looking for something, they ought to go after the corporations and the NGOs that are illegally working, like the Catholic organizations that are working with the Marxist agenda of bringing in millions of people into the United States that are not legal. Now, you know, one of the interesting facts about this is that there's no organized government crackdown on them. But there's massive government crackdown on Donald Trump because we know that his paper management is outrageous in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, he has boxes of things that we don't know why this bothers people so much, but he has paper. And that paper, you know, it's a big problem down there. But it's not just that. It's some woman that says that, you know, that he doesn't have any proof of ever meeting, says that he sexually assaulted her. Now, what, 15 years ago or a decade and a half ago. And that's, anyone could charge anyone with anything. Then we got Stormy Daniels. That case, of course, came up. Rush Limbaugh wrote years ago when Trump emerged on the scene. I got to find the article. And he put it so clearly. He said, the unified federal bureaucracy, the elites, Republican and Democrats, the McConnells, the Lindsey Grahams, as well as the Bidens and the Schumers and Pelosi's, they cannot have a man come into the club from outside. The people cannot put forth a candidate that can go into that high office and have any agenda that doesn't pass the approval process of the machinery in the Democrat and Republican Party. Because let's face it, the pharmaceutical big billion-dollar deals and the military industrial complex, they got to have their $800 billion war with China, $1 trillion budget, you know, for this slush fund that they've got. These guys are in the business of power, and they're backed by these huge institutional finance machines, and they cannot have a Donald Trump wandering around in there messing up the game. I mean, and they had to make a point. They have to destroy him. They have to put him in prison. They have to wipe him out. And but he's almost like who is it? Russell Crowe plays Maximus Desmond Meridius, commander of the Felix Legions, and they said to him, he said he was worried that they were going to try to kill him, and one of the gladiators said, they can't kill you. They have to stop you. They have to vilify you. They have to somehow smear you because you become too powerful. So they can't just assassinate you. They got to ruin your reputation so that they can go after your followers. And this may sound incendiary to you, but this is the state of the union right now. So you've got the government. It's weaponized federal bureaucracy, the CIA, the FBI. Isn't it interesting that we now have RFK Jr. talking openly about how the papers are never going to come out unless someone releases them on the CIA's complicity or our own intelligence community's complicity in setting up his uncle, John Kennedy, to be assassinated because he was basically going to dismantle that messed up, you know, powerful CIA tool that is designed to protect us, but actually meddles with foreign governments. And then you hear, like this week, recently, when you're watching this broadcast, it'll be now around 7 days ago, that you have a hearing up on the Hill where the Department of Defense and the intelligence communities are talking about the threat of AI and how they need a whole new mandate of funding and empowerment to deal with China. If it isn't China, it's Russia. If it isn't Russia, it's China. And I'm not saying that China isn't a problem. I'm just saying that they want all this power. And then they're smirking and saying, but, you know, you have no oversight. Though Congress does have oversight, but they're saying, no, you don't have oversight. And the truth is, everyone's content to not give them oversight because the mucky mucks higher up in the Senate and over these committees, they make sure that there's no intrusion into the cash flow. You remember like the Jason Bourne scene where he's exposing Treadstone, and you got the guy up there at the Hill who's got a pile of papers, and they're asking questions about Treadstone. He goes, well, that's a defunct operation. We don't even have that anymore. They say, okay, move on to something else. He couldn't wait to go to the next subject. And it's like art imitating reality. Mission Impossible, the before the most recent movie, the previous one, they have the same thing where the oversight is saying you're a rogue operation, you're doing your own thing, and of course in that movie the argument is, well, we need a rogue operation to deal with all the corruption in government. But the point is, these are rogue operations, and our system of government gives oversight, and the oversight is being deprived of knowledge of what the government's doing. That's why you got Christopher Wray up there and you go, hey, well, how many FBI people did you have out there? Was it 20, 30, 100, 200? And were they dressed as Trump supporters with MAGA hats on? I mean, come on. Can't answer that. Can't talk about that. Can't say. And that's an ongoing investigation. That's an ongoing. No, it isn't. They don't want to tell you what's going on. But you see, we can talk about it here. Isn't that great? Of course, I get my ratings suppressed on every platform I'm on except for, a raw podcast out there. So do like and subscribe and share. Lord knows how long I'll be able to say these things. I had 250,000 people just wiped out on YouTube. I must have said something. I asked YouTube, what did I do? They said nothing. Nothing that we could talk about. Folks, this is getting bizarre. And as well as I do, that they have to destroy Trump because they cannot have an outsider ever come in, and they have to vilify his movement. They have to vilify you. They have to make you look like you are some kind of a terrorist. I can't believe, excuse me, that Steve Bannon has to be doing broadcasts every day while he's wondering about his own sentencing. Trump has to deal seriously with jail and imprisonment. What in the world is going on? Conservatives are not rioting people. That's why they're always cracking down for fear that there's going to be some militia activity, because the left is the machinery of anarchy. I mean, you got 200 on speed dial riots ready to break out. According to, what's her name, Mary Bell in Time magazine, she goes and brags about it. If Trump had taken the election, they're ready to burn America down. Another summer of craziness, letting the people know that the American people will not tolerate Trump in office. It's all part of the leftist operation. No one's doing the RICO work of finding out who's funding the anarchy. No way. Because you know what? The billionaire and millionaire philanthropists that are funding the open borders and funding the riots and funding the LGBTQ agenda and funding the environmentalism and funding the racism, they're never exposed. Or will they be? Is it possible we might have one brief moment, one shining moment of like a gigantic, shall we say, kind of a national enema to drain out the toxicity of the upper 30% layers of bureaucracies in the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ? Can only happen if there's a populist movement, and we are feeding the populist movement with information. I'm going to have to take a break right now. We're going to come right back. And I'm going to give you some interesting insights as to what's going on in the great culture wars where we're actually winning. We'll be right back. Hey, let's take a moment right here and talk about something. These programs are actually paid for by sponsors. And so the one thing that I always do is try to pick the sponsors that have the greatest value. Those are the ones that I myself believe in. Now, the Birch Gold Group is one of those key sponsors, and I'll tell you why. The economy is the area that I'm the most concerned about in terms of instability in the future. Do you know that right now, China and Russia and India is meeting with Saudi Arabians and South Africans to create an alternative economy, to basically crush the dollar? This is going to have a massive effect on the stock market, on real estate. It'll be a real shaking. But you don't have to be shaken, because there's a way you can protect your retirement, your 401ks, your IRAs, by connecting them in with gold. Gold is unique in history in that it's a place of stored value. In fact, those BRICS nations of Brazil and Russia, India and China, they're going to be backing themselves with, guess what? Gold. So be smart. I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get a free information kit. Get knowledge, act quickly, don't wait. And they're going to be able to help you make a great decision on what to do. Remember, that information is free with no strings attached. Do it now, lancewallnau.com/Birch. Welcome back to the Lance Wallnau Show, where we say things that you can't say in other places, but thank God for platforms like this, where the truth can be spoken. Now, I want to pull a veil back on some bizarre stuff that happened in the LGBTQ intersection with the Bud Light, Target, pro-transgender corporate hierarchies that are, I'm going to show you in a minute, are all trying to not only suppress the truth, but indoctrinate you with their woke, perverse ideology. It's a weird thing happening in America, but I want you to go to the Doc Marten story. Now, how Doc Marten, how you could pull this off? This is the same thing that happened with Target. When they go with Satanists, transgender, or you have to look up what the word queer is. Most people can't define it. I get what a bisexual is. I get what a lesbian is. I get what a homosexual is. I get what a transgender is. The Q is always troublesome. No one can quite define it, but you got to read Douglas Murray and his book on the madness of crowds to get. I'll read that for you sometime. I'll bring it in because I don't think everybody here has read the books. But the madness of crowds, the strange death of Europe, two powerful best-selling books that describe what happened to Europe when the Islamic invasion took over under the guidance of the false compassion of German Angela Merkel. But in the United States, we have a really weird thing that happened, and that is that both racism and protection of minorities was the deceptive banner under which Marxism marched forward through BLM and the LGBTQ, two sides of the same blade, and they both did their work on the American psyche as we just sat there dumbfounded, postage to news cycles, and orchestrated riots funded by the left in order to create a trauma that would undo the momentum of Trump, which it was even then hard to stop because people could see through. Americans can see through this garbage. And over time works in our favor because the truth outlives a lie, and the truth gets clearer. Then you start going, what the heck is going on? Going to be hard to play that card. But then they had the ballot, breakthrough where they found out they could get all kinds of votes coming in with the pandemic, the lockdown, with the China virus. And I don't have to go over that right now because my story is Doc Marten. Doc Marten is where the queer marketing strategy. This is the guy that was designed this wonderful idea where they have, you got to see this to believe it.
This portion is too hot to handle for social media. Go to lancewallnau.com/podcast to listen to the entire show.
When I was in an island with Annabelle for vacation, we couldn't get Netflix, we couldn't get Amazon, we're really stuck. Loved the island. Then I found out about ExpressVPN with 94 countries with high-speed connections. And I realized that with one click, I could actually get access to servers and stuff outside of the limitation of where I was. But then I also discovered something. When you're going online, you're being exposed. We're finding out stories all the time about people being doxxed. I mean, it's a political agenda to find out personal information about you and expose it. But whether you're shopping or whether you're just connecting at a cafe or whether you're at the office, if you want to protect your identity, what you're doing, the websites you go to, the conversations you have, whether it's on a phone, a tablet, a computer, or just through a router, no matter where you are, you can expand the number of options you've got for what you get access to, and you could totally insulate and protect yourself with online privacy, security, and the best state-of-the-art encryption services. It's all through expressvpn.com/Lance. You go there and you're going to get 30, 60, or 90 days worth of free training. I guess it's a money-back guarantee and a trial. But I'm talking about lightning quick connectivity, multiple locations, the ability to go to all kinds of sites, regardless of the limitation of the local government or the local place. 160 locations in 94 countries, and all of it secure. No one can track you. That's what I love about ultra-fast, totally secure, global VPN. So go to, once again, expressvpn.com/Lance. Do what I do. Do what my staff does, do what my friends do, and protect your privacy and expand your reach.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.